Hi and welcome to True Crime, a channel dedicated to the dark underworld of criminal activity carried out by gangsters, mobsters, cartel leaders, and others. Even in places where violence has not escalated or has decreased, large portions of Mexico's population, region, and economy are being ruled by criminal organizations. Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. For today's video, we're going to talk about how the Sinaloa Cartel is rising above all the other organizations. But before we get started with our video, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that bell icon so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos. One of the world's most dangerous drug traffickers is a former cartel boss, and the drug industry finances terrorist organizations. What recent events highlight the cartel's strength and wrath more clearly than ever. You'll learn all of this and much more about the most recent fights and actions of the Sinaloa Cartel. So hold on and assess this savage growth with us through the rest of the video. The methods used by the two largest cartels, the Sinaloa and Cartel de Jalisco Nueva Generation, as well as other criminal organizations to seize and rule local populations, economies, and territories, are not the same. The Sinaloa Cartel uses tactics that are different from those used by the Cartel Jalisco. The control and governance of both cartels vary locally and are impacted by local structural factors, political cultures, and the leadership of the criminal organizations. These factors change with time, but no other cartel can match the fame and fear that the Sinaloa Cartel has accumulated. Sinaloa Cartel has faced tethering problems from Cartel Jalisco on a number of occasions, but the Sinaloa has a long list of cartel leaders with experience in this area. And most importantly, the true leader El Chapo has left behind an abundance of resources and market share that will take Cartel Jalisco decades to build up. The Sinaloa Cartel, which involves some of Mexico's most prominent couples, is frequently referred to as the biggest and most effective drug trafficking organization in the Western Hemisphere. The members of the coalition work together to protect themselves, utilizing their connections at the highest levels and manipulating the federal police and military to keep an advantage over competitors. What keeps the cartel so powerful even after the arrest of its most powerful and important leader, the world's most lucrative and infamous drug? Despite the epidemic, the cartel has managed to preserve its reputation as the most powerful cartel. Let's start first with a historical reference. The Sinaloa Cartel. The Sinaloa Cartel has been referred to by the U.S. government as one of the biggest drug trafficking groups on several occasions. The notorious drug lord Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, whose common name El Chapo was literally the verbal expression of his physique, led the cartel for many years. Short for his slightly below average height, El Chapo was once ranked as one of the world's wealthiest, notorious, and largest drug traffickers after Pablo Escobar. Under his leadership, the cartel established a fierce reputation for brutality, violence, and fear, in addition to defeating many of the rival groups in the area throughout history. The cartels in Mexico have been engaged in turf wars, but they occasionally continue to form alliances for the sake of a greater cause. What was needed other than drug trafficking for the Sinaloa Cartel to become the greatest supplier of illicit narcotics to the United States? According to officials, and as a result, the cartel had abducted, tortured, and killed members of competing criminal organizations. It also had access to a sizable arsenal of weapons, including Guzman's own gold-plated AK-47 and a rocket-propelled grenade launcher. But in July 2019, the drug lord was sentenced to life in prison after being found guilty of trafficking cocaine, heroin, and marijuana. El Chapo also kept a network of dealer kidnappers and assassins on his payroll for the murder projects. In spite of this, the Sinaloa Cartel is still quite powerful. It continues to rule northwest Mexico and is rumored to have a presence in locations spanning from Buenos Aires to New York. His outburst caused a spike in bloodshed in the area as other gangs tried to capitalize. According to analysts, it still maintains a billion-dollar enterprise that is largely based on the trafficking of illegal drugs to the United States, Europe, and Asia, despite the fact that its longtime head is currently in prison. How does it continue to outperform its competitors? Now that its most skilled and infamous leader has been imprisoned by the United States, we will dig into that. Following the incidents of El Chapo, the four main groups that make up the Sinaloa Cartel were created after the arrest of El Chapo. led by an Ismael El Mayo Zambada, a smart old-timer, a Rafael Caro Quintero, a co-founder of the Guadalajara Cartel, El Chapo's brother, Aureliano El Guano Guzman Lora, and El Chapo's 4 sons known as Los Chepitos. The arrest of the younger Guzman by the security forces in October 2019 was an eye-opening reality for many, and the Sinaloa Cartel gunmen were quick to show the group's serious military might. They engaged in street battles with the army in broad daylight, set fire to vehicles, and even staged a prison break before their leader was eventually released. The powerhouse depicted the strength and intensity of the cartel. Although the Sinaloa Cartel is a century-old and very successful criminal organization, its self-presentation is one of the buttoned-down criminals whose tyrannical reign is predictable and to some extent moderate. It was a hint that the gang continues to be a tremendously powerful force. In fact, one of the defining characteristics of the Sinaloa Cartel has been a rather careful calibration of violence that imposes its dominance in a way that allows local politicians, businesses, and people to develop predictable coping mechanisms. This has made the cartel more powerful, successful than ever, and influential in that it maintains a lower behind-the-scenes profile in terms of violence and extortion, as the businessman in Baja California Sur put it. One of polite extortionists who deliver in order, who are civilized criminals and don't just drag in violence for the purpose of violence. The strong blood ties. Although many of the members of the Sinaloa Cartel are linked to one another by marriage or birth, the cartel also frequently behaves more like a federation than a closely knitted organization. The heart of the Team the Blow, Beltran Leyva organization, which broke away from the rest of the Sinaloa Cartel, resulted in Sinaloa Cartel forming new connections with the Gulf Cartel, the Familia Michoacana, and what's left of the Tijuana Cartel, as well as appearing to have made a deal with them by forming relationships with Mexico's political and economic elite. The Sinaloa Cartel appears to have borrowed a page from Colombia's Cali Cartel. It has successfully infiltrated local governments and security forces. The cartel frequently prefers bribes over violence and alliances over war, but it is not above organizing its forces to occupy territory it wants to rule through force. The cartel's most influential contacts have typically been in the National Action Party Partido Akin National PAN, which, according to some sources, contributes to its growth in the past 10 years. The PAN's Vicente Fox and Felipe Calderon have launched numerous offensives against trafficking organizations, and some significant leaders have been apprehended, including the head of the Gulf Cartel, Ocil Cardenas Gillen, and the head of the Tijuana Cartel, Benjamin Arellano Felix. Because of the widespread belief that the PAN supports the Sinaloa Cartel, Mexican justice officials denied this in a new statement in 2010. And the Calderon government created the film in 2011 with the same goal. The Sinaloa Cartel's top adversary today is the Jalisco Cartel New Generation, which emerged from the Sinaloa Cartel in 2010 following the death of former Sinaloa Cartel capo Ignacio Coronel, also known as Nacho. With power and resources that are nearly equal, these two organizations continue to rule Mexico and are considered the biggest criminal organizations in the world. The never-ending trade. According to official statistics, since El Chapo's arrest, the flow of drugs into the United States and the level of violence in Mexico have never been worse. In the fiscal year 2016, during much of which El Chapo's was imprisoned in Mexico, cocaine busts at the border totaled more than $1.2 billion. Other significant factors contributing to the Sinaloa Cartel's power include the constant flow of money and wealth that never let the cartel run short of the resources needed to maintain its position. Similar to this, the weight of the shipments increased in 2017 when he was extradited to the United States, totaling 9,000 pounds. United States Customs and Border Protection released these statistics. In addition, the amount of cocaine seized in the country increased from more than 62,000 pounds in 2016 to more than 58,000 pounds in the following year. As of April 2020, 5,806 pounds of cocaine had been seized in the country, and the total for 2021 was 63,324 pounds. El Chapo's arrest is an illusion that depends on believing you can behead a criminal organization and undermine their operations. If El Chapo is in prison for 23 hours a day with only 1 hour of free time in a 7 by 12 feet soundproof cell with no view of the outside other than a small rectangular window to give the impression of day or night, why the drug busts are at an all-time high. El Chapo's capture has also utterly failed to stop the killing in Mexico, where homicides have been continuously increasing since 2014 and reached a high of 15,000 in 2017. According to Mexico's National Institute of Statistics and Geography, there were nearly 20,000 homicides in 2020, the highest annual total in country history. Even with El Chapo serving a life sentence in prison, the Sinaloa Cartel has continued to be one of the country's most potent organized crime organizations. Thank you for watching another amazing video from our true crime team. Like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned to our next real-life true crime video.